Since Arsenal have been struggling, there's been a lot of talk about Arsenal needing to sack Arteta, Arsenal need a clinical striker, Arsenal made a mistake by getting Sterling, and Arsenal made a mistake by selling Emile Smith-Rowe. And here's the thing, when it happened, when we sold Emile Smith-Rowe in the summer, it hurt like hell because he was one of my favorite players in the Arsenal team, if not my favorite, but it made complete sense and I was behind the decision. I could separate my emotions from my logical brain, and logically it made complete sense to sell Emile Smith-Rowe. Now down the line we've been struggling, especially creatively, and Emile Smith-Rowe would have been a huge hope during Ødegaard's injury. So it's caused a lot of people to say, and I can kind of understand, that it's a clear sign that it was a huge mistake by Arteta and Arsenal to sell Emile Smith-Rowe. But I in this video want to actually genuinely assess, did we make a mistake? Would Emile Smith-Rowe have helped us? And is this yet another transfer blunder by Arsenal? Well, that's what we'll be talking about today. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Gunner Central here. I hope you're all doing well. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you guys haven't already, and let's get into it. So once again, he was actually my favorite player when he was playing for Arsenal. I mean, what he meant to us was a huge thing. What he meant to us Arsenal fans, coming from the academy, helping us in our darkest of times from playing that Chelsea game, and just becoming a crucial player for this Arsenal team. Before we had all that, it was Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe that were carrying this team. He was so good at running at defenses. He had a good creative past him, but he was also an elite midfielding goal scorer, and we've already seen that during his time at Fulham. He's a good playmaker and a really good goal scorer from midfield, and that is something that we've been missing while Ødegaard has been out injured. So it was very obvious, and I'm not disputing this one bit. While Ødegaard has been injured, if we had Emile Smith-Rowe playing in those games, I don't think we would have looked nearly as bad as we had been. Without Ødegaard, we had no fluidity, we had no attacking edge in the final third, we had no good passes into the final third, basically ever. The only way we could ever attack without Ødegaard was down the wings from crosses from Saka or Martin Ødegaard. That was quite literally the only way we could attack on a consistent basis without Ødegaard. And having Emile Smith-Rowe, I'm not debating it, for sure would have helped our fluidity, would have helped our play, and would have helped us get more points and not drop as many points. I fully agree with that, and I fully believe that. But if we take our minds back to the summer, we were going into the summer now with Emile Smith-Rowe having just 2 years left on his deal, and that's why it was kind of a make or break summer for Arsenal. If Arsenal were to keep Emile Smith-Rowe, then he would have to play a ton of games. Remember, we don't know going into the season that Ødegaard would be injured for as long as he was. So going into summer, we have to make a huge call. Do we keep Emile Smith-Rowe or do we sell him? If we keep him with 2 years left on his deal, he has to play. Because if he doesn't play like he had him for the past 2 seasons, this time next year, he'd have 1 year left on his deal, barely ever playing. He'd be 25 years old, like we would make barely any money off him. And even if we do play him with 2 years left on his deal, there's no guarantee that he extends his deal and he could still walk out as a free agent, or we would have to sell him for a less than fee because he'd be 25 with 1 year left on his deal. Or we could sell him now at 24 years old. He's not going to be a starter for us as long as Ødegaard is there. When Ranieri is coming through the ranks, Ranieri and Ødegaard kind of fill that role. It made complete sense to sell him. I know it sucks right now looking back that we sold him, but at the time, I don't think anyone can disagree that it made more sense to sell him than more sense to keep him. As much as it hurt for me, I separated my emotions, looked at it logically. 2 years left on his deal, 24 years old. He hadn't really played much football for the past 2 seasons. We got a decent offer here from Fulham. It's worth the sale. I thought it was a good sale. I thought we got a good price for him. Could have asked for more, but I think the fact that he hadn't played for 2 seasons, really, he was very injury prone over the past 2 seasons. I think it made complete sense to sell him. And I think looking back, if you put yourself in those shoes back then, I'm sure you could even agree in the summer, you must have thought that selling Smith-Rowe kind of made sense. Remember, we never knew Ødegaard would be injured. We thought Ranieri could come in if Ødegaard needed rest. We thought Trossard could play the 10 if needed. We didn't know everything we know now. Now, of course, it doesn't make it any easier seeing Smith-Rowe bang it out at Fulham with 3 goals and 2 assists in just 11 games in the Premier League so far. Really good stats. I'm very happy for him. I'm supporting him, even though he's not an Arsenal player anymore, but it doesn't help seeing that. Especially when we're playing badly, you keep thinking we should have kept Emile Smith-Rowe. But again, guys, we must remember, we didn't know Ødegaard would be injured. We didn't know Trossard would struggle at the 10 like he has done. We didn't know Arteta doesn't trust Ranieri quite as much as we thought. But even then, if Ødegaard wasn't injured, I don't think we'd even be having this conversation. I don't think it would be the case. I think we'd all be looking at Smith-Rowe saying, we're so proud of him, but it was the right decision. If Ødegaard wasn't injured, I guarantee that's what we'd be saying. Because if Ødegaard wasn't injured, I'm quite certain they wouldn't have slipped up as many points as we did. We wouldn't have fumbled. We wouldn't have looked as bad as we have been looking over the past couple months or so. We would be higher up on the table if Ødegaard wasn't injured. Ødegaard is a game changer. We all know that. Heck, look at the Chelsea game. It was one of our better performances in the past month, and that's because Ødegaard was playing. And how did we score? Oh yes, off an Ødegaard assist. So without Ødegaard, we have looked like we lacked fluidity. reality. We have really struggled with other options. I don't know why Ranieri wasn't given more of a chance when Ødegaard was injured, but I do also kind of get it because Trossard was having some good games as a 10. But I guarantee if Ødegaard wasn't injured, if Arsenal were playing better football with Ødegaard in the team, I guarantee none of this would be even a genuine conversation. And all we'd be saying about Smith-Rowe is I'm glad he's doing well at Fulham. Now, again, we must remember, Ødegaard is our starting attacking midfielder, right? Next, we want Ranieri to get game time. So Ranieri is kind of our backup starting attacking midfielder. Maybe him and Trossard kind of play that role. But with Ødegaard, let's say he wasn't injured. Ødegaard would be rested or taken off in like the 80th or 70th minute for some games, and Ranieri would get those minutes. But with Ødegaard being out, we're forced to play Trossard. When Trossard's at the 10, we don't do as well. We struggle, and Ranieri gets less game time because obviously Arteta doesn't see Ranieri as a starter in a huge game yet. If Ødegaard wasn't injured, none of this talk about if we made a mistake selling Smith-Rowe would even be a thing. Again, if we kept Smith-Rowe, we'd be forced to sell him in the summer anyway, unless we could find a way to extend his contract. And if we sold him next summer, we would probably get a fraction of the fee that we did get. Remember, we sold Emile Smith-Rowe for £34 million, £27 million on a front-up fee, and £7 million in potential add-ons. I can promise you this, if we kept Smith-Rowe and Smith-Rowe still struggled for game time, he'll be 25 years old, 1 year left on his deal. If we happen to sell him next summer, we'd probably get £10 million if we were lucky. Not because Smith-Rowe is not a good player, but because that would be the situation we were in. So I think we made the perfect decision. As much as it hurts, even though Ødegaard at the time, I knew it, we made the right decision to sell Smith-Rowe. As much as it hurts, it was the right decision. And I think this conversation is only becoming a conversation because Ødegaard was injured. If Ødegaard wasn't injured, this wouldn't even be a conversation.